TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom and good evening. I'm Ayan Hassan, and this is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, separate terror attacks in the West Bank district of Judea and Samaria claimed 3 Israeli lives, despite extensive Israeli efforts to counter terror. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reasserts that only the strong can survive the Middle East. Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister Dermer signals Israel's flexibility on the issue of Saudi Arabia's aspiration to develop a civilian nuclear program. Separate acts of deadly terror plagued Israel over this weekend, as tensions seemingly escalate. The first attack occurred on Saturday afternoon when a Palestinian assailant armed with a pistol approached an Israeli 60-year-old father and his 28-year-old son at a car wash in the town of Hawara. He proceeded to shoot them at point blank before fleeing the scene. According to a preliminary investigation, the father and son traveled to Hawara the same morning to run personal errands and remained in the area until the abhorrent murders occurred in the afternoon. It is believed that the terrorist who obtained information about the presence of the Israelis in the Palestinian town proceeded by walking to the car wash where the victims were present and opened fire only after verifying their Jewish identity. Following the shooting, the terrorist fled by foot into the alleyways of the town. During a security assessment with the IDF Chief of General Staff, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, Commander of the General IDF Directorate, Major General Oded Basiuk, and the Deputy Director of the ISA, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, instructed the IDF and the ISA to increase efforts to ensure the security in Israeli communities and motorways throughout Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley. He also ordered the employ of every means necessary to capture the terrorist from the Hawara attack. And while the Israeli security establishment has launched a wide-scale manhunt after the terrorist, on Saturday night, several dozen Israelis reportedly marched on the northern part of the town of Hawara, where they hurled stones towards Palestinian-owned residential buildings. Consequently, IDF forces arrived at the scene and dispersed the rioters, who evidently sought revenge. In tandem, Israeli residents of Mount Hebron briefly blocked Telem Junction, which leads to the entrance to a Palestinian village. Israeli security forces arrived at the scene and dispersed the protesters. And while additional protests were reported, the most notable incident took place at approximately 3 a.m. on Sunday morning, when an IDF force was deployed to the location in Benjamin sector where a group of masked assailants was spotted. The IDF force chased the assailants, during which one of them sustained an injury. After the assailants were captured, it became clear that they were in fact Israeli citizens. An IDF investigation has been launched into this incident. During the weekly cabinet meeting in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu relayed the government's condolences to the families of the victims from the deadly terror attack in Hawara and pledged to capture the responsible terrorists sooner rather than later.
On behalf of the citizens of Israel, I would like to send condolences to the family of Shai and Aviad. May their memories be blessed. A father and son were murdered in a brutal terrorist attack in Hawara. The security forces are working now to apprehend the murderer and settle accounts with him, just as we have done with anyone who murders Israelis since this government was formed. This terrorist's day will come, and sooner than he thinks.
Meanwhile, Palestinian organizations issued a statement rejoicing the murderous attack, celebrating it as an achievement, while the Islamist Hamas organization praised the terrorists' brutal actions as heroic shooting operation in Hawara, which was a result of the resistance promised to defend the Palestinian nation. The Iranian proxy Palestinian Islamic Jihad proclaimed that its fighters can strike the enemy with full force, while further pledging that Israel will have neither security nor stability. In other news, an unmanned aerial vehicle took off from the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip on Sunday morning, and while flying over the Palestinian enclave, set the trajectory towards Israel's southern communities. As a result, the IDF Iron Dome system launched 2 projectiles and intercepted the UAV. While the drone was struck down before leaving the Gazan skies, part of its debris landed within Israel's Eshkol Regional Council. Thankfully, no injuries were reported, and the IDF confirmed that the UAV debris was located and extracted for further examination. Separately yesterday evening, an Israeli citizen entered the Palestinian village of Tulmos Ain, which is located in the Binyamin sector of the Samaria district. Subsequently, a crowd of Palestinian youth attacked the Israeli civilian, hurled rocks at him, and burned his vehicle. A separate group of Palestinians reportedly came to the Israelis' aid and protected him until the IDF arrived and successfully extracted him. Thankfully, no injuries were reported. Moreover, the IDF spokesperson's unit reported an additional unidentified aircraft was spotted flying over the Gaza Strip towards Israeli territory, a second such incident in less than 24 hours. As a result, the IDF thwarted the entry of the UAV by activating the Iron Dome system, which launched projectiles and successfully intercepted the unmanned aerial vehicle. The IDF spokesperson's unit highlighted in a statement that the aircraft did not pose an immediate threat to the civilians of the area surrounding the Gaza Strip, and no alerts were activated according to protocol. Shortly after the second UAV was intercepted over the skies of the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip, a report was received regarding a shooting attack on Route 60 in the southern part of Mount Hebron. According to an initial findings report from the attack, at least one Palestinian gunman opened automatic fire towards a vehicle, brutally murdering an Israeli woman and critically wounding an Israeli man, before fleeing the scene. It is important to note that a 12-year-old girl, the daughter of the slain woman, was present in the vehicle during the time of the attack. Nevertheless, miraculously, she sustained no physical injuries. After the fact, IDF forces located the vehicle used by the terrorists for the deadly drive-by shooting in burnt condition in the vicinity of the Palestinian city of Khalkhul. And while the terrorists remain at large, the IDF, in coordination with the ISA, are said to be closing in on them. It is important to note that since the beginning of 2023, 35 people, including 33 Israelis, 1 foreign tourist, and 1 Palestinian worker from Gaza, have been killed, and 109 Israelis wounded by terror-related acts of aggression, in addition to which 7 members of Israel's defense forces have been killed. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the IDF's draft center, where he met with new military recruits, during which he seized the opportunity to highlight that only a strong IDF can ensure the future of the State of Israel.
We are facing monumental changes. However, I tell you that one thing that will not change, which is our need to protect ourselves, because, at times, the world is cruel. We live in a place where the weak does not survive. Only the strong survives. The strong does not only prevent wars and wins them, it also succeeds to draw others to make peace agreements with it. This is what happened to the State of Israel. 75 years ago, the State of Israel was a small grain that could barely protect itself in this area. However, today, we are a rising power in the world. This all relies on one factor, and without it there is nothing. It relies on the IDF. If the IDF is strong, then the state is also strong. And when the state is strong, the future is open for everyone.
In an interview to the U.S.-based PBS News House, Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer, who headed a senior Israeli delegation that met with U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken in Washington last week, revealed that Jerusalem is studying the details of an emerging agreement between the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that could have the latter essentially develop a civilian nuclear program in exchange for Israeli normalization, among others.
Like so many things, the devil's in the details, and we're going to have to look at what ultimately is agreed upon. And you're right, the Saudis have put that, a civilian nuclear program, which you probably are aware of. They, as signatories of the NPT, they could go to China or they can go to France tomorrow, and they could ask them to set up a civil nuclear program and to allow for domestic enrichment. They could do that tomorrow if they wanted to. So the question that I ask myself is, if the U.S. is involved in this, what will that mean 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, and what's the alternative?
Minister Dermer went on to stress, however, that Jerusalem would never agree to any neighboring countries developing nuclear weapons, and therefore any agreement reached would require vigorous safeguards.
We're not going to agree to any nuclear weapons program with any of our neighbors. And the question will be, when it comes to the details of an agreement, what are the safeguards? And what happens if they take another path, if they take a path with the Chinese or something else? We have to think through that whole thing. But let's not underestimate the impact that an Israeli-Saudi peace agreement could have on the region and the world.
In response to Minister Dermer's remarks to the PBS Newshouse, the Prime Minister's Bureau issued a statement clarifying that Israel remains opposed to any Middle Eastern country developing nuclear program. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to note that TV7 Israel is a donation-based ministry. Therefore, if you're blessed by our productions and would like to help support keeping TV7 Israel News on air, please consider making a donation. To do so, you can visit our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I would like to encourage you to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Ayan Hessen. I'm wishing you a Shavua Tov, good week, and we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time.